Hello guys, I am Samkit Jain, a medical student at Mindz National Medical University, and I am an IM student, and here I am back with a new video of my anatomy series with the topic inguinal hernia. That is a very important topic for any of the exams. And for more such videos, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and join our Telegram channel. All the links will be provided in the description below. Now let's start with the topic. So, what is an inguinal hernia basically? An inguinal hernia is protrusion of the peritoneal sac with or without abdominal contents. That will be seeing in the classification that whether it is coming along with the abdominal contents or without the abdominal contents. Now, before telling the different types of inguinal hernias, let's just discuss a very quick topic or a very short topic, that is inguinal triangle. So, inguinal triangle, aka Hasselbalch triangle. It is a very important triangle. Its boundaries are very important, and I have made the boundaries very simple for you with a mnemonic RIP. The mnemonic for the boundaries is RIP. That is, we have rectus abdominis on the medial side. We have inferior epigastric vessels on the superolateral side, and we have Poupart's ligament, aka inguinal ligament, that we discussed in the previous video, aka inguinal ligament, as lateral side, as inferior boundary. So these are the boundaries of inguinal triangle or Hasselbalch triangle. Now let's discuss about the inguinal hernias. So inguinal hernias are broadly classified into your direct and indirect inguinal hernias. First of all, I'll be telling about the indirect inguinal hernia. Now, why am I calling it indirect? Because it is not performing the task directly. It is going through a series of events. It is indirectly performing the same task. Right, so what are the series of events that it is going through? First of all, let's before all that, what is the most common cause of indirect inguinal hernia? It is the patent processus vaginalis. Now, what is this processus vaginalis? Processus vaginalis is a fetal structure. It is present in the fetus, the scrotum of fetus, that helps in the development of the tunica vaginalis. Processus vaginalis, tunica vaginalis. It helps in development of the tunica vaginalis of the testes. Testes has 3 layers, out of which the innermost is tunica vaginalis, and that is developed by processus vaginalis. Now, usually before birth, this process, the processus vaginalis, it closes. But in case it persists, it leads to inguinal hernia, that is indirect inguinal hernia, and therefore indirect inguinal hernia is often referred to as congenital, and it is more common in males. It occurs in women also, but it is more common in men. Now, what are the events that the hernia is going through? First, it passes through your deep inguinal ring. In the last video, we discussed everything about the deep inguinal ring, superficial inguinal ring, and inguinal canal. For that, you can just go to our channel and watch that video. Now, it passes through the deep inguinal ring and traverses through the inguinal canal. Now, if your processus vaginalis is completely patent, then it also crosses the superficial inguinal ring and it enters the scrotum. Therefore, deep inguinal ring, it is not directly protruding out. It is protruding out with a series of events. Deep inguinal ring, inguinal canal, superficial inguinal ring, and then to the scrotum. Now, what will the protrusion carry? Is it protruding with muscles or it is protruding with vessels? What does the protrusion carry? The one protrusion is common in both type of hernias, that is peritoneal sac. So it will definitely protrude along with peritoneal sac. Now, since indirect hernia is passing through your inguinal canal, and one of the most important contents of inguinal canal is spermatic cord, that we'll be discussing in the upcoming videos. So it protrudes along with the 3 layers of spermatic cord. Your spermatic cord has 3 layers, and indirect inguinal hernia protrudes along with peritoneal sac as well as the three layers of spermatic cord. Now let's just understand all this what I have said with an image over here. So this is for indirect inguinal hernia. As you can see that here we have the deep inguinal ring, here we have the superficial inguinal ring, and this in between is the inguinal canal in which your hernia is protruding. Your hernia is passing the direction of the arrow. You can see your hernia is passing through the inguinal canal, and after exiting through the superficial inguinal ring, it enters the scrotum and protrudes out along with peritoneum and the three layers of the spermatic cord. Why spermatic cord? What is the relation of your indirect inguinal hernia spermatic cord? Because spermatic cord is a content of inguinal canal and hernia is passing through inguinal canal. Therefore, it will protrude along with the layers of a spermatic cord. Now the location of the hernia is very important. Here you can see that there is a labeling, that is inferior epigastric vessels. So your indirect inguinal hernia is lateral to the inferior epigastric vessels. This point is very important, that it is lateral to the inferior epigastric vessels. And do not worry for notes, I have made a perfect table for you guys. You can just understand and you will get the table at the end. Now, so this was about the indirect inguinal hernia. Now what is direct inguinal hernia? Now direct inguinal hernia is not passing through all these messy events. It is just directly protruding out. What is the most common cause? Because there was some weakening in the posterior abdominal wall. Therefore, it is not congenital. It is acquired. There is no congenital reason for direct inguinal hernia. It just saw that there is some weakening in the posterior abdominal musculature. So let's protrude out. So it protrudes out along with peritoneum, that is common for both, and sometimes fascia transversalis. So this was the protrusion of the direct inguinal hernia. So let's see it here. And your direct inguinal hernia, it protrudes at inguinal triangle. It protrudes inside the inguinal triangle or Hasselbalch triangle that we just discussed. Now here you can see the direction of arrow. First of all, you have here deep inguinal ring, superficial inguinal ring, but you can see that there is no hernia over here because only the indirect hernia when passes through these rings. Direct inguinal hernia is not passing through these rings or inguinal canal. So the arrow shows that here is your, this region is your direct inguinal hernia, that is in the inguinal triangle. And sometimes what may happen that this direct inguinal hernia, without passing through the inguinal ring, it may exit from superficial inguinal ring here. It may just exit from here directly and then it enters the scrotum. But that occurs very rarely. Usually it does not enter the scrotum. Now the location. If we talk about the location, indirect inguinal hernia was lateral to the inferior epigastric vessels. Your direct inguinal hernia is medial to the inferior epigastric vessels and it is lateral to conjoint tendon. In the last video, we discussed much about conjoint tendon, that how is it formed. So your direct inguinal hernia, it is lateral to the conjoint tendon and it is medial to the inferior epigastric vessels. And sometimes it may exit through a superficial inguinal ring to enter the scrotum. So this was all about the direct and indirect inguinal hernia. And here you have, you can see the indirect and indirect inguinal hernia, most common causes. Indirect inguinal hernia, patent processus vaginalis. Direct inguinal hernia, posterior abdominal wall weakening. The indirect inguinal hernia, its path, deep inguinal ring, inguinal canal, superficial inguinal ring, and descends into the scrotum. Direct inguinal hernia directly protrudes out. It sees that there is some weakness, so let's protrude out. Indirect inguinal hernia takes along, it protrudes along with peritoneum and layers of the spermatic cord or round ligament of uterus if it is occurring in women. And direct inguinal hernia, peritoneum, and sometimes fascia transversalis. Indirect inguinal hernia is congenital, the most important point, whereas direct inguinal hernia is not congenital, it is acquired. It occurs after birth. Indirect inguinal hernia is lateral to the inferior epigastric vessels. The location is very important. And direct inguinal hernia, it is lateral to the conjoint tendon and medial to the inferior epigastric vessels. So this was about today's topic. And for more such videos, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any doubt related to any topic, you can just comment below in the comment section. And if you want to give suggestions that on what topics do you want videos, you can just tell us. Thank you so much, guys.